Hello and welcome back to my channel. So today I want to talk to you about refilling the creative well, and I want to talk to you about it probably because it is something that is also quite personal to me because I struggle with this. I work full-time as a writer and sometimes I don't allow myself to refill my creative well, and I wanted this to be probably one of the first videos of the year for me just because it is something that I really need to get a good habit of. So have you ever found yourself when you're trying to write sitting and just staring at the blank page you just can't write? Like, it doesn't matter how long you sit there, you just cannot write. Or maybe you've managed to get words down and you're just looking at them and thinking what a load of rubbish they are, or it just doesn't sound right, or there's just something wrong. And I think so many writers, if not all, have this experience in their writing and it feels terrible. And I'm not just talking the normal I'm stuck on this scene, I'm talking when your creative battery has basically run so low that it feels like your creativity has dried up and you just don't feel creative and there's nothing there. You're like running on an empty tank and it can feel like you are just never going to get it back. And this is what I want to talk about today. So as authors, our minds are probably the most important part of our creativity. It is where we birth our characters. It is where we come up with the stories we want to share with people. It is where we create entire new worlds and get them out and on page. You know, this thing in here, it has this ability to just create entire universes, world, characters, storylines, you name it. It's probably the most valuable tool we have. You know, if you can't think of your story, then you can't write. But what happens when it's not working properly, or you can't think of any ideas, or it feels like your muse has gone silent or numb on you? I want to explore practical ways of filling that well back up so that you can get back to the fun stuff, the writing stuff. And I want to share some tips with you on keeping your well full and refilling it when it has run dry. It's not really good to kind of work until it's run dry, but it happens. I do it all the time. So I've been writing for a long time, and when I say a long time, I mean since I was a child. I love writing. It's what I've always done as a hobby. I used to always have notebooks, ask for notebooks at Christmas and birthdays and get them, and pens and paper, and when I had a paper round, I used to buy notebooks with my wages and pens, and then I would write stories. So I've always been a writer, and when I was a kid, I never had a short supply of stories. I was always the one, if we were playing pretend games, I was the one that came up with the narrative for the story we were going to play out. I was the one that kind of like directed my friends in this let's pretend game. I was the storyteller. And back in the early 2000s, I discovered National Novel Writing Month. I was on another author's forum and she had a writing group on there, and I was writing all the time. And I used to run like a website where I would write online. This was before the days of Wattpad coming along. This was when we had like forums. I can't remember what they're called now, but everyone like had a forum, and I used to write on them and I had people follow my stories. It was a lot of fun. You know, I wrote stories online for about a year, no one was ever coming, and then suddenly one day someone came and then another person came, and before I knew it I had like 30,000 people as members of my site who were reading my story. But then there were other people writing their stories on there as well, and it just became like this little community, and it was so amazing. There was never any pressure with it. It was just like fun, and I was so addicted to writing these stories. You know, I could come home 9 o'clock in the evening and I was busy. I had 4 children at home and I would still get to my desk and sit and write 1,000 words and get them posted, and it was the best time. And fast forward from that to 2010-11ish, I decided to try and put my stories out into the world, not just on my website but as a book, as the idea that I could actually be a writer. I mean, I was a writer, but an author, not suggested to me. It was like the dream of it was birthed in me. I'd always just been writing stories. There was never this, when I grow up I'm going to be an author, but suddenly it was a possibility. So I discovered indie publishing and it was amazing, and I published my first book and I got readers and I got followers and it was incredible. I haven't looked back it's been such an amazing journey with this writing and publishing my books and having people from all over the world read my stories, and it is amazing. But with that comes the business of writing. So when you are an indie author, and probably a traditionally published author, but I don't have experience in that, so I can't speak on the trad published side, I can only speak on the indie side. But when you're an indie author, you have everything else to do. So it's the business side. You're doing the marketing, you're doing the social media, you're arranging your edits, you're arranging your covers, you're arranging your launches and your publications. You are running the whole thing. And it is an incredible thing to do, don't get me wrong. I wouldn't change it for the world. I absolutely love it. It's my most favourite thing, and I am so glad that I took the plunge to do this. But the downside is, comes pressure. And it's not just pressure from outside people, it's the pressure you put on yourself to write more books, to write faster, to get the words out. And I can find myself working 14-hour days 7 days a week, which is not good. So I remember sitting down one morning a couple of years ago to write, and I just couldn't. And it was like my muse had gone completely numb and flat, and when I tried to write, it didn't feel like there was any emotion in it, because I didn't feel any emotion. I just like had this apathy, and I was like, oh my god, what has happened? And this went on for days. And what I realized is I had been taking, so your creativity is like a pot, like it's a creative well, and I've been taking from it and taking from it and taking from every day and asking more and more and more, and never refilling it. And so when we are in kind of like this creative burnout, and I'm not talking burnout in the sense of normal burnout that we have, it's like this creative emptiness that we have through a drained creative well. It can feel like it's gonna go on forever, but really you have to, every time you take out of it, you have to put back into it. It's just a cycle. So that's the purpose of this video, is to talk about the importance of refilling your creative well. But something super interesting, because I just love science, that did you know that creativity isn't actually just this magical mysterious force we have in our head? So it does feel like it. It just, when I'm writing, it feels like I'm creating magic. It's actually a complex neurological process. When we're being creative, so many areas of our brain light up. It's like a concert, like bright lights, it just all lights up. And so the frontal lobe, which is responsible for problem solving and planning, works with your limbic system, and the limbic system deals with your emotions, which is what you use to create stuff. And interestingly, neuroscientists have found that when you are in this creative flow, your brain releases this huge cocktail of new neurotransmitters, including dopamine, which makes the act of creativity feel rewarding. And I am sure you've had that I know I have, when you're in that creative flow mode and you're addicted to it and passionate. This is all your little neurotransmitters just releasing this party in your brain. And that's what we want to get to. And to get to that, you need to have a decent amount of fuel in your creative. I'm talking the sciencey bit because, one, I love it, but two, understanding the processes on which your brain works might help you to understand why you need downtime and why it is absolutely critical to your creativeness. And when I'm talking about downtime and relaxation, I'm not just talking physical. I'm not just talking sitting on your sofa or going to bed, because like we go to bed, that's resting, right? But it's not always creative resting. You have to have creative rest and creative well refilling. So stepping back from your work allows your brain to kind of shift from this focused, detailed version of itself to an analytical mode, to what's known as the default mode network. And you will have experienced this. How many times have you been in the shower? Have you been doing the dishes? Have you been walking the dog? And new ideas come. Or you've got stuck on your book or something and you've been doing the most mundane thing and your brain goes, what about this? And it's amazing. Well, this is actually called the default mode network. It is when your brain is having some nice rest time, but subconsciously it is working on your story and your creativity, and it gives you the ideas. Now, one of the bad habits I have when I am not writing is I scroll social media a lot. That's not helping you. And this isn't a video to tell you to stop scrolling social media, but you need to give your brain rest. You need to refill it creatively. And I wonder how many times I can say that in this video, but you do. And so I want to talk about strategies of refilling it and not just scrolling, because I know for me personally that scrolling doesn't help. I am still not allowing my brain to have downtime. time, because I might not be writing, but I am still scrolling Facebook and seeing all this author stuff, business stuff. It's still making my brain work. So what I want to talk about today is active strategies to refill your creative well, so that you can get to flow state when you're creating, and when you're not creating, you can have this default mode that still creates subconsciously, but you don't know it's happening, and it's amazing, and it creates this really fantastic creative loop that helps us release all these chemicals and feels good with our writing. So reading is probably one of the biggest creative well fillers for authors, and I'm not talking reading a craft book or reading some non-fiction, unless that does help you creatively. I'm talking though about reading fiction books, putting yourself into stories, reading the things you love. Most of us authors, I know there are some authors out there who say they don't read, and okay, I don't get it, and they exist, but reading is such a big well-filling thing. But don't just read authors that are in the genre you're writing. Read books that you enjoy, you like the sound of. Like, I write urban fantasy mostly. I have British crime books, but I absolutely love reading horror. I like rom-coms. I like fantasy, obviously, but there are genres that I read that I don't write. But allow yourself to read them. It's okay, because these will spark new ideas, and I'm not talking that you will go and steal ideas, but when you are reading, your brain is taking in this information and it's going in, and it will then subconsciously pull ideas out of your own creativity. But even then, I'm not saying to read just so you can work on your own book. Read for the sheer pleasure of it. Read for story. This is why we write. We write to create stories. So go and read other stories that have been created and immerse yourself in them. And, you know, go and binge read your favourite series. Reread your favourite book. You know, just go and enjoy the thing of the story. But it's not just reading. You might have other things that you enjoy. I was doing The Artist's Way, and she asks in that for you to list a load of things that I think it's like 20 things that you love doing the last time you did them. So I did that, and she says not surprising if many of them are a long time ago, which they were. And then she says the week I was doing it, take 2 of those things and do it. So filling your creative well could be indulging in your other hobbies. What other hobbies do you have? Like, I enjoy cross-stitching. I like playing video games. I like playing board games. I like jigsaws. I like colouring. I like to draw. I like to do those Zentangle things. I love movies and cinema. I like gardening. There are so many hobbies and things that I enjoy that engage my creative brain and help to replenish my creativity. And maybe, like in The Artist's Way, list those things and have a look at when the last time you did those, and pick one and make a date with yourself to partake in these hobbies this week. You know, I have this, like, it's like a life journal. If you've watched Journal with Chloe, and I think she changed her channel name to Chloe Bunny, she has like this life journal. It's basically scrapbooking, which I love, and I haven't indulged in. It's such a creative, well-filling project, and it's great. So yeah, go and do one of your other hobbies. Indulge. Physical activity, whatever you like. Maybe you've got a dog and you love walking your dog. Maybe you like going to the beach. Maybe you enjoy cycling or roller skating or something like that. Go and do those. Those are creative and fun things to go and do to help you fill your creative well. And science has shown that they clear your mind, they reduce stress, and they enhance your cognitive functioning. I was studying about Carl Jung a few years ago, and he used to, before his sessions as a therapist, used to play games. I think he did like what we would call Lego now. For his sessions, he would also colour. He's got, I think it's called the Red Book. It's all these mandalas that he's coloured in. So he knew that creative play was a way to fill his creative well. So go and do something physical that you enjoy. Go and binge watch your favourite series. Go and watch your favourite movie. Go to the cinema. There is nothing wrong with watching television, watching films, enjoying music, listening to audiobooks. There's nothing wrong with those, and they can be really good creative well fillers. I am guilty of not allowing myself to watch films when they come out. Like, I love your fantasy, love the Harry Potter films, love the Fantastic Beasts films, and I've still not seen Fantastic Beasts 3 because I've not allowed myself the time for it. Now, I do not write that kind of story, but that would be a great creative well filler for me. And as I mentioned before, go and game if you are a gamer. Most of my creative well filling activities tend to revolve around story-based stuff. So I like reading, story-based. I like movies and TV, story-based, and I like playing story-based games, and these are creative well filling activities for me. But yours could be other things. Could be doing crafts. Like I said, I like scrapbooking and all that lot. One thing I know from experience though with the importance of filling your creative well is allowing ourselves time to do it. As a, I would say, former workaholic, but I'm still a workaholic. I am trying to recover from being a workaholic. I actually have to set time when I'm going to finish work. I have to say to myself, I'm finishing work at 5 o'clock and the evening is for creativity. For indulging in these things I enjoy. And in the past I have tried to do this, and what I would find is 5 o'clock I'd finished, go and make dinner, go and eat dinner, wash up, all that stuff, sit at my computer to play a video game, pause my video game and end up working, end up on social media, end up doing some marketing, and it's not good. So for me, I'm taking baby steps to aid my creative recovery. Filling the creative well is super important. You can't keep draining your tank dry and then expect yourself to keep showing up every day. It is what will lead to actual burnout in the end, no matter how much you love the writing. So allow yourself the time. I have to allow myself the time. Take baby steps. Set dates with yourself to go and watch movies. Go to the cinema by yourself. Go and watch your favourite movie. Go reread your favourite book. Go and play your favourite video game. Go and partake in your favourite hobby that you've not done for a long time. Make a date with yourself to show up and make it as important as your writing, because refilling your creative well is super important, and the more full that well is, better your writing will be. So I'm going to leave this here. What I will say to you is this kind of thing is not a one size fits all solution. Take what from this video what you think will work for you, ignore the rest, totally fine, ignore all of it. But do try to refill your creative well and understand how important it is for you to do that. And in the meantime, give this video a like, hit that notification bell so you get notified every time I put out a new video, and don't forget to subscribe if you're new here. And until next time, enjoy filling your creative well. It's guilt free.